Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Wednesday. It's April 21st. This will be our chart lesson for today, and it was all uphill again today. There were a couple of different ways to look at this. Early on, this was a range down here, your overnight highs, your overnight lows. I just measured that and looked for a measured move, but we went right on through that, came back, kind of tested that area, and went on. So the other way was to measure this leg right here. Well, and look for a measured move. This is basically a little two-legged correction here, and that gets you to here, which is real close. But once we continued higher, I would go ahead and measure this whole thing right here, like so. And you might even actually measure it to here, because there's another correction right here, and like so. And you see that gets you real close as well. So that's a couple different ways to measure it. Generally, when you get a trend that's this strong and just keeps going, and you get new trends, just go with the shorter term stuff, and don't look for something so far back, because it just keeps going and it keeps resetting. But I wanted to show you these early on that gave you the original targets that would have been great targets in both cases. But once this thing continues on, look for something more near term. And so I would have measured this leg and then look from here, and that would have kept you in this trade all the way into the end of the day, and you still would have had room for more. So it went a little bit higher than that, but you can see not long after that we pretty much ran out of steam and turned over into the close. So, but this was an uptrend pretty much from the get-go, from the open. We went sideways in this little green channel for a while, but once it came out of there, it was strong, and it just continued higher all day long. And I looked to see if there was a bigger two-tiered channel here, and you probably could find something that'll fit, but it wouldn't have helped you a whole lot. You're better off to stick to these more near term. Uh, you've got this original two-tiered, and it was pretty solid, followed through. Then you had this tight yellow one that led into this flatter blue two-tiered channel, and then inside there, just go to the tighter stuff as well. So I think that's the cleaner, easier way to trade that than to look for the bigger pattern, because I can't find one here that fits well enough that it would have helped you. If you just start down here at the beginning, see, we never got anywhere near back to that trend line. And it's probably accurate because you can see prices playing off of it, but it doesn't help you. So, um, and then I looked at a possibility of maybe a spike in channel here, maybe starting from here. But you see, again, you never come back to that. So that doesn't really help you. I looked at maybe starting from this point and coming across here, and that looks like it could be, it's probably accurate. But again, I don't know what happened there. Here we go. That's definitely accurate, and I believe that to be correct. But in the end, I think you would have had to move it on up to here. And you can see that midline still coming into play in there. But again, prices never come back to this anywhere up here. And at this point here, you would have still been trading this channel. So again, I just don't think it helps you. This is probably the most accurate one, but I think it's just at a level slightly too large to really help you. So you're better off to hone on in and find these other ones. But let's zoom in here and go through the trades and wrap this day up. So 7 o'clock comes right through this down move here, and it's possible this is like a little spike and channel down. We were in this range here clearly, and we get this spike and channel down. It was probably more like this. It looks two-tiered, but we never come back and test that low, so that leads me to believe that's probably an overshoot, and it is more like that, and that's just an overshoot, and we go high. We actually just go sideways for a long time. We've seen this happen a lot lately in the mornings where there's not much action until later in the day for whatever reason. So notice we got a new high up here. We're working down, and you get a first entry, you pull back. So this is not only a high or low, but this is a second entry technically. At this point, if this didn't look range-like, I'd look at this as more as a second leg down, and maybe or one leg down, and the fact that you might get a second leg down. And if you do turn down in here somewhere and start going down, obviously look for that. But with this being a range day, I was leaning more towards, you would have wanted to move this up at this point. I was looking at this more towards, now we're probably headed to the other side of the channel, and that's what ended up happening. This kind of throws you off and makes you question it, but it's still, that's exactly what happened. So anyway, we're working down, and this looks like a high or low off strong support. This is the third we bounced there multiple times, and you can see it's acted as support and resistance, and it acts as resistance, and we get a high or low. Plenty of room back to the EMA. So at the very least, I'm just looking for 2 legs of correction before we either head lower or maybe come back to test the low, or either go, we could continue higher. So I'm looking at that a couple of different ways, but either way, I'm looking for this to go back to the EMA at a minimum and give me 2 legs of correction. And that's why I like it. Again, it's a second entry long, and it's a higher low off this support level. And it's a nice bullish bar. It takes it a minute, but it works. And then, of course, this is congestion, so it's like a little failed breakout, but I don't see any entry worth taking to the short side. And then we're just bouncing down here. You're not really getting rejection until you finally get this little failed break lower, and then it turns and goes out the other side and gives you this big bullish bar. If you've got room to get out, you may take this trade, because now they actually had to trap the shorts out and the longs in to get it to reverse and go higher. And even then, they still couldn't get outside this previous resistance. So, but this trap leads you to think, hey, and that trap is probably enough to at least push you back to the top of the range, because we couldn't even get off this support. We couldn't go lower. Look how many times prices tried to go lower and couldn't. Eventually, they're going to go higher if they can't go lower. And we spent a lot of time along that support line and never could get through it until they trapped out the shorts, or they trapped in the shorts and out the longs. Anybody that was long probably had their stop under this support, and there's people that think that's a smart place to go short if you break out, and they're going to try to ride with it. And when you see one break one tick lower and instantly reverse and go out the other side, you can almost guarantee you're going to get a scalp out of that. It's not 100%, but in a situation like that, most of the time you're going to get a scalp out of that. And so I like that trade. And we do make a new low, and we actually get a first entry, second entry short right there. Of course, this is in a range, so we don't care so much about second entries and things, but we've tested that high all across there. We tested it there. Now we got a lower high on the second entry short with a fairly small bar. So I like going short there. If I went back and forth, this one's close to being green because that bar, but it's such a small bar. I mean, it's such low risk. I don't know what's going on with my, but anyway, it's 4 ticks, 5 ticks. It looks like. I mean, that's very low risk. I believe that was right. Let me go back and do the math. The low is 2150. So yeah, it's 5 ticks basically. So very low risk. So for that reason, I marked it red. And then notice how we start bouncing higher here. That's showing you that, say, the buying's coming in, and suddenly we rocket out of there. I don't see any good. There's a high or low right here on a second entry. You could call that a second entry, but that's too congestive right in the middle of the range. I just don't think you want to enter there. And so unfortunately, you don't really get a chance to ride that move up. I mean, like I said, we've seen this kind of deal a lot lately in the morning where you see some moves where either you're doing nothing or you do see some moves and you just don't get a chance to participate in them. And by the time you get way up here, let me just color this so it's a little easier to see. wanted to color that one. We'll just make it blue. We'll leave the other one yellow. You can see the blue one right here. You just don't get a chance, and you're just too far away from the EMA. And notice when we push through the previous resistance, we pull back and test it a couple times before we go higher. This one is real tempting to go higher, but it's so congestive. It's so far away from the EMA. But it is the first break of this trend line, and it is, notice the new high, first entry, tries to go lower, second entry long right there. And then you get a little failed second entry short that turns up. I just don't like going long at the high right there when there's always the chance that a breakout could fail. And we did come back and test it a couple of times. So you may take this one. I definitely wouldn't take this one. You might take that one though, because there's close to being enough room to get out. There might actually be enough room to get out there. I didn't check it to the tick. So that's a possibility on that second entry. If you took that, I could live with that. And then you actually get another second entry right here. But the fact that we went through the midline and are below the EMA, and it looks like there's a channel right there as well that I don't have on there. So that just scares me away from going long right there. It really does. I think it would have worked. In fact, I know it would have worked. Then you get two legs up, and then you're just going sideways. But you still get a chance to get in this thing and get a nice move. Notice the low, you test it once, you test it twice, plus it bounces off the key entry point and confirms that key entry point from the first two swings. That's the kind of bar you like, because you're getting in at the very bottom of the support with plenty of room to get out, and it shoots straight up there, comes back, makes a high or low, and it breaks lower and reverses and goes out the other side just like it did down here. It's almost a repeat pattern. Basically, it is a repeat pattern. And you see it did the same thing. It runs up real quick, pulls back, gives you a high or low, and this time it takes off quicker than it did here, but it's because it's off this key entry point. And I like entering here because it broke lower and because it's that repeat pattern. You don't know for sure it's going to take off like that. You're just thinking another scalp back to the upside, but you get an easy runner on this one. And then you run back again. You get a first entry off the trend line. You come back and you get a second entry. The signal bar is close to being questionable, but I still think that's probably close enough on a second entry long on a strong trend day. And quick, easy scalp, and then we're going sideways again. And you get another failed break lower. This time you don't get a good signal bar. It just rockets off. And you don't get a second entry on the breakout up here either. However, you do get a failed second entry short right here at the EMA. And so I like going along there just to look for a scalp again. And again, this thing takes off. You would have probably got a runner there, maybe. You get a high or low here. And this is also a failed. Just taking the high or low would be a little questionable with it not coming back to the EMA. But because you got a new low right here, it's lower than that low. So first entry, second entry. So that's a failed second entry short with a nice bullish signal bar right off the key entry point, confirming it. I like going long there. It does come back and give you a high or low here, but you got to go long at the high of the day again. And this has been a strong trend, but we've now had our break of this yellow channel over here, and you've had a couple of legs up, and that's the reason I'm a little less hesitant to go long anymore past this point, because you can see we've pretty much got a measured move there. You don't have a whole lot of room left there. There's enough for that measured move, but it's just it's pushing it really close. You can see we run on it. It would have worked, but then you get two legs back and you get another little second entry long. But this is just too congestive, and you can see it would have burned you if you tried to go long out of that congestion there. Once you start to get away from the EMA that long, just be real careful. and we sell off here, get a break, new low, and then we're bouncing again. Again, there's no rejection down here yet, and your higher low is congestive. And then finally you run, this channel runs up, you get a break, pushes up once, it comes back. It looks like you're going to get a second entry here, and then it forms this inside bar. And then it breaks lower and turns up, and I don't think you want to go long on that. But then it breaks lower again and gives you a relatively nice signal bar, and that turns this into a second entry and a low. Really, you could count this low, first test, second test. So I marked this one green. It's still a little iffy, but you would expect prices to try to make a new high here from both this channel and this channel. So, and it takes it a second, but this one takes on off. But this one's a little aggressive, but if you took it, I marked it. There's some reasons to like that trade. We run up to a new high, pull down first entry, pull back. Technically, there's a second entry right there, but you get this little double bottom with a failed break lower. It bounces right off that possible trend line and confirms it and gives you a nice bullish bar. And there's a new high right there, first entry, second entry. And it's actually two larger legs back to the key entry point. Hopefully you can see that with a little two legs. You got a leg back, a two-legged correction, which is generally the center of the pattern, and another leg back. So there's a bigger picture double, two legs back to the key entry point. There's a second entry long. There's a double test, triple test. We've tested that multiple times all the way across there. I don't have the support, but hopefully you can see that with your bare eye. You can see that, and we bounce. I like that one. And that takes you to 2 o'clock. It takes that one a minute to take off too, but you know, you could ride this one. Once it takes off, you probably get a runner on this. Well, maybe not, because it does come back right here, so I don't think you'd even get a runner. But you could have got a couple of points or so out of it anyway. And that's pretty much what I saw today. And again, the afternoon, much past lunch, just not much happening. Really, after 11 o'clock today, right around 10:50, 11 o'clock, and we're still moving higher, but there's just not really any good setups. And you can see how things are jumping all over the place, but the thing about today was it was pretty obvious it was still an uptrend, and it's an all-day uptrend. So if you can find something to get you long that's reasonable, like this right here, take it. It's not a great, perfect setup on a normal day, but on a day where the trend's been up all day and you test something that many times and it holds, it's going to go higher. It's just a matter of when. And so if it's been multiple tests with a good signal bar and it's a second entry too, take that trade. So that's all you can do on a day like that when it's all over the place. So, but now if it's just if the day looks like this, don't take a trade like that, because the context is totally different than on a day when it's shooting straight up and been going up all day without any real major corrections. So you have to take the context of the type day and so forth. We're not pattern traders. I probably don't say that enough, but I say it a lot, but probably not enough. I should probably repeat it 10 times a video, because guaranteed somebody will send me a chart and say, hey, there's a second entry short here. Why didn't you take it? Well, it's been an uptrend all day. We're not taking shorts to begin with. And so the context is not right. We're not pattern traders. We're chart readers, and we use the patterns to time and set up our entries. That's what they're there for, is to set our entries up properly, to give us a good opportunity to get in as low at the best spot we can with the least risk, and it sets up the timing on the trades as well. So I hope that's clear. But I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again tomorrow. We'll wrap up our week on Thursday. No chart lessons on Fridays. Most of you probably know that by now. It's been a long time since we've done them on Fridays, but I still repeat that for all the new people coming in. I'm just doing them on Monday through Thursday now. Trying to do them 5 days a week is just too much, and I like to get out of here early on Fridays and start my weekend and to get a break from all this. So for that reason, no chart lessons on Fridays anymore. But I'm going to wrap it up. we'll be back again to do it tomorrow to wrap up our week. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.